There was a conversation on Twitter recently that made me think about an aspect of the community I hadn't put into words before. I'm not sure I've got a good conclusive argument to make here, but I want to at least share how far I've gotten thinking it all through so that maybe we as a community can get further together. We're getting some dating advice today, folks. Let's talk about low ink. For those who don't know, Low Ink is a monthly tournament in the Splatoon community that's been going on for a long time, but putting it that way isn't doing it justice at all. The Splatoon scene is fundamentally structured around this event. The gimmick of Low Ink is that it was the first tournament in the scene to ban players of a certain skill level, very much like an Arcadian tournament in the Smash scene. Above a certain Ludi division, banned. Tournament results that put you at that approximate skill level, banned. If you win Low Ink, you are banned from ever competing in Low Ink again as a team or as an individual. It's considered an honor, a graduation of sorts. I've even seen Low Ink TOs print out these goofy Low Ink banned certificates and hand them to Low Ink banned players at LANs, and someone probably put one of those up on their fridge or framed it or something. Many other tournaments have taken that same approach since. Many. But Low Ink is the original that paved the way for all the others, and they still have the biggest impact in doing so. Low Ink is to the skill band tournament what MCR is to emo music. Yeah, there are other good bands that are worth listening to, but no one else has Welcome to the Black Parade.
Seth. Dude.
I won Low Ink in July 2020 as part of the Gorillers, and since then I have never had such an affirming experience in the Splatoon community. The matches were close and intense, real tests of our abilities as a team. We got sent to the losers bracket in round 2, meaning we had to win more matches to get to the finals, and then when we got there we needed to reset the bracket first in one best of 7, and then win a second best of 7 to win the tournament. The second set of grand finals went to Game 7, the very last possible game. At one point, our E-Leader player managed to survive on tower in a 1v2 against a couple frontliners to keep the enemy team from getting the 1 point they needed to take the lead with 30 seconds left. When we won, there was a voice chat where we went to celebrate and we were just yelling. And all sorts of people, friends of the team, were popping in and congratulating us one after the other. Almost everyone teared up at some point. It got talked about extensively on the Popcast by Popgun, who had once subbed in for us at a LAN tournament. It felt like our whole community around us was looking at us, seeing us, and telling us we'd done a good job. It was a storybook tournament run, the kind of thing people make movies about. Except it wasn't competing to be the best team in the world or anything, just the best team at this arbitrarily selected skill level. How do you top that? That's an open question for the community to answer. I really don't think there's another moment that can come close to it until you are literally winning a regional major, establishing that your team is at least the best in North America or something. Sure, there are plenty of intermediate goals you can set for yourself. You can aim for different ranks in Swim or Sink, a weekly Wednesday tournament that names the different brackets you can be placed into after Sharks. We won Mako bracket today as something a team might celebrate. You can also work toward making a certain Ludi division, or making the playoffs in the Ludi division you're in and winning those. Really, a team can set whatever goals they want, but the community doesn't respond to all of those goals equally. Winning Low Ink is a party. I can tell you who won Low Ink this month. I couldn't tell you, without looking it up, who won any of the SOS brackets or who the Division 3 Ludi champion was last season. When teams win Low Ink, some of them are clearly grinding for more than Low Ink. Their trajectory isn't finished yet, and you know they're going further before they plateau. But for some teams where Low Ink feels like a huge triumph instead of a foregone conclusion, it can feel really hard to get motivated again. Playing at high level, that is, the teams that can win open tournaments, is of course really rewarding. And playing at low level, which we define as being able to compete in Low Ink, even though that's where you'll find a significant majority of the scene, is rewarding because of events like Low Ink. Mid-level, you just went from this transformative moment of affirmation to now not being able to compete in that tournament you've spent so long building your team around, trying to enter open tournaments and getting bodied in them. You're suddenly at the bottom of the food chain again. You're a tournament champion that now goes 0-2 everywhere. What's more, it's significantly more difficult to build a team now, for a couple reasons. Firstly, there are way more players that are low ink eligible than low ink banned. The stronger you get, the fewer people there are at that level for you to team with. Simple standard deviation bell curve type stuff. Also, there are some players who may work well for your team that haven't quite managed to win low ink yet. Since winning low ink is such a common goal players have, you'll often see low ink banned or low ink eligible in free agent and recruitment posts, because it's a factor in whether you're compatible with the team's goals or not. People may choose not to team with someone because they have a different eligibility status in low ink. During my time on Team Watercolor, I was low ink banned, but my teammates weren't, so they just competed without me on low ink days, and all I could do was watch. This split in the community between low ink banned and low ink eligible goes a lot further than that, though. Low ink is successful enough that it sort of has a community around it. There are people who know low ink teams because they saw them on stream and even became fans of them, rooting for them in future brackets. Few teams that are banned for low ink are going to be recognized in the same way in that space, nor will the banned teams often care all that much about rooting for low ink teams they could run circles around. The scrim servers you start getting into after you're low ink banned, and the teams in those servers have different mindsets, different cultural norms, different memes, a whole different personality than what you found in low level. It can feel alienating, like you've been playing this game competitively and very publicly, posting your successes and failures to Twitter, cultivating a following and getting community leaders to recognize you, and then all of a sudden you're a stranger again. And not only that, but a stranger who's suddenly needing to be carried because suddenly you're on the weaker end of the spectrum again. Everything you've done up until that point, the people you're playing with now are not impressed. There's legitimately a bit of a split in the community, separate subcultures, for teams that are low ink eligible and low ink banned. When I made my video, How Good Am I at Splatoon, where I talk about each discrete rung on the ladder from non-gamer to top player, I went from low ink banned to talking about the +3 server, because from where I was at a player, what my experiences were, that felt like what I was being told was the next step, making it into +3 and being able to maintain a spot in it. Thing is, +3 is for pickup scrims. Getting into +3 isn't a team goal at all, it's an individual goal. It can be used to network with players and find other teams to scrim, but you can't win +3 like you can win low ink as a team. It seems to just work that way the rest of the way up the ladder from that perspective. When you look for what goals to set your sights on, they all look, at least from where I sat at the time, pretty hollow and arbitrary. Once you've reached the top of the mountain at low ink, it really feels like you aren't ever going to feel the same way as a competitor until you're the best team in North America. Sure, you can win Ludi Division 3, but winning low ink will still feel more rewarding in terms of how other people respond to it. It's so much easier to win low ink than it is to even get close to the best in a region. The gap between the low end of X rank and the players at the top of X rank is much larger than the gap between C rank and low X rank. Even though X rank is maybe only 5 to 10% of the community, giving it my best guess. The better you get, the more time it's going to take to improve, which is true just about anywhere. When I was a freshman in high school running track, my mile time improved by around a minute. My junior year, it improved by 11 seconds. Going from 0 hours in Splatoon to 100 hours in Splatoon is going to feel like more of an improvement than going from 1,200 hours to 1,300 hours. So the idea of going from starting out in the competitive scene to winning low ink feels challenging but reachable. Going from recently winning low ink to competing on even footing with Starburst, or even just another DivX team, that means spending significantly more of your life playing this game than you have up until this point. And a lot of people aren't willing or able to put in the time it takes. A lot of teams' stories just end here. They set a goal of winning low ink, they do that, they can't think of anything else that feels compelling for them to do with the resources they have, and they decide to quit on this great climactic finale. Maybe that's why +3 feels like the next logical step, that so many teams don't last much longer transitioning to mid and high level play and everyone's back to networking looking for teammates again. That's a grim assessment, I don't know. Maybe there's some truth to it, maybe not. This is a known issue, definitely nothing new. It's something the community has been trying to find answers to for some time now. A popular stance on it is that low ink is fine, that low ink doesn't need to change, and that we just need other events that work as well as it does that are open or maybe mid-level events. The challenge is for tournament organizers, this argument would state, to do something else as well as IPL does low ink. I'd run a quote of Popgun making this argument, but there are a lot of Popcast episodes. They're all an hour long. I can't remember which one he said this in, and so since the video goes out tomorrow, I don't know, watch the Popcast. Link to his channel's in the description. That's all I can do for the man right now. Now, I'm all for tournament organizers experimenting with new formats, trying new ideas, doing something to try and help the mid-level scene keep its momentum better in the transition from low ink. I don't want to slight any of the open tournaments that are running right now, or the idea to run high ink with specifically low ink banned teams, which was an interesting concept, or any of the other efforts that have been made. Even an experiment that doesn't result in a successful event is still a successful experiment, because at least we learned something about what works and what doesn't. I also don't want tournament organizers to feel blamed for their event not being low ink or something. It's very important for everyone to focus on the things they can control, the areas of their life that they have agency over, and be making those things work as well as possible first. I don't care if your solo queue team is worse than you, find a way to carry them if you're the better player instead of just giving up on them. Not all of us are tournament organizers, so not all of us can control what tournament organizers try to do with their time and resources. Maybe we can make suggestions, but we also have to realize that if we haven't run tournaments ourselves, we may not actually know better than they do. There are a lot of YouTube comments about my content that I ignore, because a lot of y'all don't know how video editing works, or how YouTube works, or what my community is like. And I can know that an idea you suggest won't work for me before I even try it. TOs are subject to similar comments about the jobs they do all the time. The reason I brought up Popgun earlier is that he actually does help organize tournaments, so his opinion carries more weight. If you're a player who's won low ink or is getting close to it, I do think there is something you can do, at least for yourself and your team. The teams that I see continue from low ink and improve the most and stay together, they usually have goals that go beyond just winning low ink. Low ink is a milestone maybe, but they already know what they want to do next. They usually have something that matters to them even more than winning low ink. And before you know it, they're already Div 2 or better. If you're a low ink team and your current goal as a team is to win low ink, it might help to talk to your team right now, before it happens, about what you want to do after you win low ink, or why you want to win low ink. See, in society in general, I find we tend to set up very clearly defined roadmaps for people, and we create expected moments of reward and celebration along the way in anticipation of people following them. When I was little, I was going to get this old and then go to kindergarten, and then I was going to go to elementary school, and then I was going to go to middle school and high school, and along the way, I was going to have to do well in school to get to go to the next level, and then I got to celebrate that I succeeded that year before the next year started and was tailor-made for me because what I learned last year was designed to set me up for what I was about to learn this year. And when I graduated high school, that was a big deal, and in the meantime, I was applying for colleges, and when I made it into one, that was a big deal. And then it was back to getting grades I needed each year, and then I got a diploma and job certification for doing that. And this whole time, my whole life, there had been a very clear set of systematic challenges and rewards that were very well designed because they were very artificial. Grades are important, but to an extent, we have to realize they're made up. Getting an A in a class on that subject doesn't mean you'll be able to excel in a job at that field. It might just mean you're good at school. When some people get out into the professional world, they don't always get this steady expected flow of challenge to reward to new slightly harder challenge to bigger reward. I've seen a lot of managers complaining about that one employee who takes their performance review way more seriously than everyone else. And that's probably because that employee was a high achiever in school, really liked that challenge to reward structure, that incentive system, and just expects it by default in their other endeavors in life. Sometimes a job doesn't get more challenging the more you do it. Or you do that job well and then get promoted to another job that, instead of being like the first one, depends on an entirely different skill set, like management. These sorts of life roadmaps and the incentive systems tied to them exist all over the place too, and not necessarily for bad reasons. You can get a wedding dress any color you want, but since we've traditionally made them white for symbolic reasons, I wouldn't blame a clothing company for not having as many options for a black wedding dress as a white one. Nevertheless, there are often ways that the most popular options, the roads we travel that are clearest marked, don't lead everyone to exactly where they, as unique individuals, want to go. When I was little watching Disney's Cinderella at daycare, I learned that it was my job to be a prince for some pretty woman I'd meet when I was older, and that this was an important part of being a grown-up. I'm sure there were some gay guys who grew up seeing the same movie and being very confused about what part they were supposed to play and all that. Better for them, honestly, to have figured it out earlier, because when people get confused about what they're supposed to do next, they tend to just drop back to what's written in the script. They just follow the roadmap. And if they didn't come up with the roadmap themselves and someone else came up with it for them, they may not make decisions that are really best for them. Because I stuck to the prince and princess idea I got trained on by watching so many movies, when I first started dating, I found myself falling not for the person I'd be in a relationship with, but for the roles we were playing. I wasn't trying to get to know the person, I was just trying to be a good boyfriend in whatever surface level ways seemed to get the best reaction from her. After all, Cinderella meets this guy like once, dancing, and they barely ever talk, and all of a sudden they're getting married. I was just minding my own business trying to be Prince Charming. Nobody told me I had to get to know the princess. Tracks can also be set up for pretty malicious reasons. Businesses need to sell products, militaries need soldiers, politicians need votes, and they're willing to press whatever buttons in the human psyche it takes to get them. Advertisements are algorithmically targeted and will say whatever it takes to get you to buy, regardless of whether you actually need the thing. Shareholders are who matters, not customers. Military recruiters are allowed to lie about the experiences people will have and the roles they'll play as soldiers to meet their quotas. If you watch a debate on a major news network between presidential candidates, just pull out a list of rules for a high school debate competition and watch how the candidates break them constantly on one of the most prestigious journalistic establishments in the country without the moderator ever intervening. It's not even structured like a debate, it's just two people being given soapboxes and seeing who can yell louder. The directions these systems are trying to push people are not necessarily directions that are good for those people. People who fail to recognize the track they're being put on may end up buying things they don't need with money they don't have, or being traumatized by war, or voting for someone who uses the power they're given in ways that harm instead of help the voter. These tracks may only be good for the interests of the moneyed and powerful, the people who made the tracks in the first place. The Splatoon community definitely isn't malicious in the same way, but I think we do have to recognize that we have an incentive system intended to shepherd people up the competitive ladder, and that not everyone will want to take the same path or even end up in the same place. A competitive environment generally assumes that players want to keep getting better and better. It looks to get them in the door by giving them some immediate hope of success, and then gradually removing the training wheels while giving them more and better resources to get better at the game as players climb. But some players will want to get off that track at some point. Some players really did just want to win low ink and don't care to get much better than that. Some players would love to get better than that, but don't have the time to do it. And, to my point, some players have been along for this whole ride because they're just on the competitive Splatoon track, and they haven't stopped to think about why or where they want to end up next or where to get off. They've gotten to a point where only their own initiative can carry them any further forward, and they haven't needed as much of that initiative to get to where they've come so far. It's important for us to answer the question of how to incentivize players to keep going after low ink, even if they don't want to improve much more, just so they have a reason to keep playing at the level they've reached. But it's also important as human beings for us to ask why we want to keep going, and make sure that we're the ones setting that goal for ourselves. We need to know we'll be able to set a second goal and start working toward it after we reach the first, and that it's not a goal being set for us by a system that's about to drop out from under us and leave us without external input about what we should do next.